J-Lo, P. Diddy, the artist formerly known as Prince, Snoop Dogg. We've known many artists and musicians to change their names, debatable on how successful they were with the name changes. Today, we're talking about big businesses. What happens when a big business wants to make a major brand change? We're seeing it play out in real time with Twitter, and it's the focus of today's Expert Connections. Twitter is changing its name, at least we think so. I guess that's still debatable. Maybe the courts will decide at some point. Welcome to Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. Today, we're talking about major brands making major branding changes. Joining me is Alexis Neumann of mConnexions. Alexis is a senior strategist and branding expert. Alexis, welcome to the show. I can't believe we're talking about Twitter changing its name.
Thank you for having me. I know it feels a little bit surreal. This platform is a little over 14 years old and is undergone a lot of changes in the last year or so. And this is the latest, and it's a big one.
Yeah, apparently new owner, new name, potentially. Elon Musk announced in a tweet, or whatever we might soon call it, on Sunday that he wants to change the name to X, the letter X. In fact, X.com is already rerouting you to Twitter if you check it out. But then there was a major twist this week, Alexis. Apparently, another major brand already owns the trademark for X.
Yes, and it's one that Elon Musk has already had several, we'll say, contentious discussions with over the last couple of months. It's Meta. So Meta already owns that domain. As many people may already know, Meta and Twitter, or the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, have already had some head-to-head discussions in recent weeks over the launch of Threads, which is a very popular, growing new social media platform. And now this latest interaction over the X domain and name. And it seems like maybe Elon Musk didn't really think this process through.
I really want to dive into this with you because Elon Musk, it seems, is making some great examples for us to talk about branding and brand overhauls or brand changes. We've had a lot of companies through the years actually change their branding. In fact, when we're talking to startups, Alexis, one of the things that we talk to them about is the importance of a name and in selecting a name. And one of the things that we even say to them early on, I know you say that it's okay if you change your name before you get too big. It's okay if you're going to change your logo. It's okay if you're going to change some of your messaging as your company evolves. You're just starting out. We expect you to evolve. But what's not something that we see every day is having a company that's 14 years old and one of the largest grossing revenues, largest social media companies in the world looking to change its name. So let's bring this into kind of like down to the business basics level, Alexis. What are some mistakes that you see Elon Musk making in general when it comes to this potential brand change from Twitter to X?
Oh, where to begin? One of the things that we would always suggest that a company do when they are considering a major rebrand like this, and we're not talking about a company like Apple. Back when they first began, they were known as Apple Computers, and then they switched to Apple. That's a rebrand, that's a name change, but it's a minor one. Something where you're talking about going from Twitter to X, those are two completely different things. That's a major overhaul. The one thing that we would have told Elon Musk and his team is take it slow. Internal first. You want to make sure that you have everything buttoned up, that you've thought through all of the major aspects, put a timeline together, a rollout of how this is going to go and what you're going to tell people, how you want people to find out, what you want them to see and expect over the coming weeks, months, sometimes even years as this process unfolds. And that you would do some of the behind the scenes work ahead of time, like securing the trademark. Like the rollout of the new logo and making sure that you have consistency. That's a word that you hear from us a lot, consistency in your brand. The last thing you want is to have your new logo on some pages and your old logo on some other pages, and to be using a mix of new and old language. So that internal process when you're rebranding is so critically important so that you have everybody on the same page, everyone in your company knows what's coming and when. And then you can begin the process of getting people familiar with your new brand and why and what they can expect, how your core values and mission are or are not changing based on how your brand is evolving and your name change and things like that. So really, a lot of that should take place before anyone ever hears that you are rebranding. All of that should take place behind the scenes, and you should have all of that stuff thought out far, far in advance. It looks like Elon Musk took a slightly different approach.
Yeah, especially when it came as a surprise to learn that Meta already owns the trademark for X. And, this will come down. We're not attorneys, so we're not going to discuss the legal aspects on, at least not in this segment, maybe over in our legal connections segment. But somehow I don't think this was that thought through. Perhaps there would have been some marketing campaigns ahead of that. Very interesting. Very, very few clients of ours are in a situation where they are already a global household name like Twitter. Also very few, because most clients, we would say, okay, consider the impact of a brand change. How well known are you? How difficult will it be to change what you're known as to something else? Although also, not only is Twitter this globally recognized brand, but so is Elon Musk, and he's arguably the most followed, most recognizable person in the world. In fact, with billions of dollars, if he wanted to put towards a rebrand campaign. So really interesting dilemma here. But I like how you're pointing out most businesses should take note at some of the things that are not going well. Even if you're naming, for instance, a blog, a podcast, a new product within your company, maybe it's not the name of your company itself, but these are all things that you should really be following some simple steps that I know you put together, Alexis, on when it comes to a rebrand, especially when it comes to a name. What are some of the considerations? So you've mentioned the trademarks and copyrights. What are some other things that people should consider when they're working on a rebrand?
So one of the things that I would suggest considering is whether that name, whether the new brand truly reflects your business, truly reflects your mission, your values, your vision, what separates you from your competition. I know that, and you and I have talked about that this is, the X name is something that Elon Musk just likes. It's just something that he likes and he wants to use it. That's not necessarily the best reason for rebranding your business. One of the things that we tell people all the time when they are even just starting out, when they're considering the name of their business, the logo, the design, is it's important that you like it, but it's even more important that it reflect your audience, that it reflect your key buyer personas, who is going to be interested in your brand, who's going to be using your services or buying your products, or whatever it is that you're offering, who's going to be buying into your brand. You want a brand that reflects them, not necessarily you as the business owner personally. And so that would be one of the things that that we would counsel people to do, is make sure that whatever you're choosing, whether it's a new name, a new color scheme, just a new look and feel, does it reflect your audience? Does it reflect who you want your audience to be, who they are now? Are you willing to lose some of that audience to gain a new audience potentially? And there's a lot of complexity that goes into, that process.
I did some searching because when I first heard about this X announcement, I was like, what does X mean?
What does it stand for?
We weren't alone either, right? Because the buzz for marketers was, okay, so are we still going to call it tweeting? Because tweeting is what birds do, and Elon Musk is getting rid of the bird, or giving it the bird, I don't know. And so what are we going to call, what do you do on platform X? I X doesn't even like make a sound, right? So it's not like what do you do with X? And so I had to search to see like, where did the X name come from? Turns out Elon has loved the letter X or the name X for a long time. It's been shot down before. He says it represents his company's comprehensive vision for like the everything app. It's just like everything. And that's what X means. I don't know if it's like X marks the spot or what, but in doing a rebrand, you should probably tell people what it means, don't you think?
I think the flip side of that is if you have to explain it too much, maybe it's not working. There's always going to be an internal thought process to your brand that may only mean something to you as the business owner or have some, special meaning, but people shouldn't have to guess. And if you have to spell it out too much, that's to me an indication that it might not be working, that it might not actually be serving you, because you also want people who maybe are unfamiliar with your brand, which maybe doesn't apply to Twitter quite as much because not that many people are unfamiliar with Twitter. But when we're talking on a slightly smaller scale, you want people to get a sense of your brand right from the get-go. And if you have to go into a long and detailed explanation of what it means and why you picked it and why it's right, there may be some consideration that it might not be the most right move for you.
I think this is really, really good advice. And I do want to point out, it's fun to kind of poke fun at Elon and at Twitter. Twitter's CEO did tweet out and say that X is a term for the everything app, making it more like less of how we've been thinking of Twitter as just the kind of headline content focused app, and instead making it more like the Chinese app called WeChat. If for those who are familiar with WeChat, where it is like the everything app. They do everything on it. It's, payments and instant messaging. It's like the one app where you go to do all the things. And so perhaps that is the vision for this, although that hasn't been rolled out in any kind of formal way, just the tweets or whatever you call them now that we're piecing together. So Alexis, as we wrap up here, one last thing, I want to kind of bring it back to the marketing side for businesses. So we've given some great branding guidance. What would you say, what should businesses do right now? Should people be changing the Twitter logo for the X? Should they be, because oftentimes you have links to your business Twitter profile on your website and you have it listed, in all these places. Should the logo be switched out? Should you be working on that right now? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts on that are, I would take a little bit of a pause. There's still a lot to be decided as to the legal right of Musk and Twitter to even use this name, to use that domain. It has not been formally rolled out across all of what we will, for now, call Twitter/X. It has not been formally rolled out. You can still see the Twitter logo in some places. Tweets are still called tweets at the moment. So I would suggest that businesses continue to use, X, Twitter, as they normally do. If that's a part of your social media strategy, then absolutely continue with it. But I wouldn't make any major changes on a website or materials right now until we kind of get a better sense of how this is going to play out and whether this transition is formally going to happen and officially going to happen, or whether there are still some adjustments to be made.
Alexis, I know you gave similar advice when Meta announced that it was changing its name to Meta. And that advice proved golden because Facebook is still called Facebook. Right. And Instagram is still called Instagram. And so these ended up being social media brands that fall under the umbrella of Meta for Business. There wasn't a lot of information coming out from Facebook then, or Meta, about how we should be using the name Meta or where to incorporate it. Was the logo going to change? And I remember similar talk then, like, do we switch out the Facebook logo? And
right.
It's a good thing we didn't, because that logo did not change. And even using the term Facebook did not change. So I think at this point, it's a wait and see, a stay tuned approach, and definitely keep it here. Connect with Alexis and her team at mConnexions at mConnexions.com. Alexis, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me. And I'm looking forward to more discussions, I'm sure, on this topic as we see how this unfolds.
We'll come back when there's more to update people on. For now, make sure to subscribe to Expert Connections and head on over to our Marketing Connections playlist to hear more from Alexis and the other marketing experts. We'll see you next time.